Hello. Uh, Welcome to my lab again. Today what I wanted to do was go into a little bit of a deep dive with my game FUBAR. Now, FUBAR, I originally wrote the prototype in 2004. And then there's also, I know I let Dave Harley work in the source code a little bit. I think that was in 2006. So there's a couple of different prototype ROMs floating around. The way you would know if you have it is Dave Harley added IntelliVoice to the title screen, and I think also had like a voice countdown in lieu of an actual timer. But I actually did finally release FUBAR in 2019. I know it was a long time coming. Part of the reason why it took so long is because there was a slowdown issue which I couldn't get around until finally Joe Biciak released what was called JLP, which added, among other things, real-time multiply and divide, which was necessary to handling the slowdown issue with the AIs. 2, it gives you additional 16-bit RAM, which also was necessary because in the prototype I could only have 4 AIs, and I wanted 8. So now 8 AIs are possible. And the third thing was JLP provides for save to flash. So you could spend a long time, as you're going to see, customizing your game, and without Flash, of course, you'd have to re-customize it every time you play, which is kind of annoying. So finally, I finished up FUBAR and released it in 2019. And another thing is, at the same time, I released it through Intellivision Revolution. Yeah, I got the shirt on today. At the same time, Intellivision Revolution released FUBAR, Electronite released Defender of the Crown, which is awesome. That was another game that was a long time coming. So, yeah, if you haven't had a chance, check out Defender of the Crown. It's a fantastic port of a fantastic game. I'm very happy they made it to Intellivision. So, now, right around the corner was the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. This was in 2019, as well as local convention here, which was Retro Game Con 7. So I did release FUBAR. Finally sold some physical copies. I still got a couple physical copies left. Now I also released the ROM for sale to IntellivisionCollector.com. So you can pick it up there for $16 Canadian. So now, let me just get to the game. Oh, there's a countdown. Okay. There it goes. Okay, we're live now. So here I have the game already queued up. But I want to play it for a bit because some people have expressed confusion to the menu system. And I know it's intimidating. The upside is once you understand all the menus, there's a tremendous amount of replay value. So let me just hit reset so you can hear the intro sequence. Oh dear. Okay, I just turned the volume down a little bit. What I don't want for it is to pick up on the microphone here on the recording, as well as you're hearing the, because I'm screen recording with the media. So you're going to hear it anyhow. So I just turned the volume as low as it can go, but let me do this one more time. Nah, we'll just leave it alone. Okay, so here we are. You have the title sequence, and it says ECS Enhanced because the game optionally supports ECS. As you can see in the background, I have my mouse here. You should be able to see it. The box, you can just see it in the background here. It does advertise as being an ECS game. You don't have to have ECS. Having ECS will let you plug in a pair of Intellivision 2 controllers so you can play 4-player. When I first conceived FUBAR, I wrote it because I wanted the Intellivision to have one 4-player game. I didn't know that World Cup Soccer does in fact support 4 players because that's not advertised. It was released after the demise of Mattel Electronics. Let's see here. The other thing about the ECS is that you have 6-channel music instead of just 3. Alright, let's get started. Now, this is the first menu you'll see here. The main menu. You can either just do a quick start, or you can go right to game settings or defining the players. But if you have files saved already, which I do, I usually just come here to load settings. And you'll see down here we have in the bottom corner is the onlooker, I call it. That little smiley face that's sort of talking, and you see the chyron down at the bottom of the screen. Now here's a few save files I created already. I'll explain this a little bit. And again, I'm assuming that you have the released version of the game. I'm not going to take the time. The prototype menus are very similar. But again, if you have one of the prototype ROMs, you're kind of on your own. Sorry. Okay. So of the 8 save files, which I give you, 3 of them I have currently in use. So 0, of course, is kind of like cancel. You can also wipe out all your save files if you want to just sort of factory restore your ROM. Okay, so number 1, you'll see here to the right, we have 8 gray smiley faces. And behind them, we have 4 groups of sort of paint swatches, I call them. We have 2 blue, 2 green, 2 black, 2 red. To the right of that is, you see MPA 40. So what does all that mean? Well, what the save file in the synopsis here, the smiley faces represent AI players. So right now the 8 players are all set to be AIs. The paint splotches, or the swatches behind them, represents which team they're on. Now what team you're on is represented by the color of paint. So we have the first 2 players are on the blue team, the second pair of players is on the green team, the third pair of players is on the black team, the fourth pair of players is on the red team. Now to the right of that, MPA, that's an abbreviation of Max Paint. That's the game mode. There's 8 different game modes, each of which sort of dictates how scoring works. And a little bit more than that, but we'll get to that in a minute. And then to the right of that is what's called the argument, 40. So in the max game modes, you have number of rounds, same as in Snafu. So how many rounds? 40. Now, save file 2, you'll see here what looks to be, they look like donuts, I guess. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 human players. To the right of it, we have 2 more smiley faces. Those are AIs. And then finally, players 7 and 8, those are X's. And those are players that are unassigned. So of the 6 players, the first 4 are set to be human players. And then players 5 and 6 are AIs. And there is no players 7 and 8. To the right of that, you see Elim 2. That's Elimination Game Mode 2. I'll explain that in a moment. But you'll notice that the paint swatches are different here for every player. So we have blue, red, flesh, I call it, because the corresponding overlay color is peach color, or skin color. So flesh, then we have yellow, black, now white, I'll explain in a moment. Finally we have dark green, followed by grass green, I guess. Now white. Now, it turns out there are only 7 teams. White is not a team, because the default paint canvas color is white. If a player is set to be have a white paint swatch, that's actually a griefer. And what you can do, if you're a griefer, is instead of actually participating in the game, you can erase everybody else's paint, as you'll see. So yeah, griefing is an actual role in this game, which makes it ideal. If you have a family with young children that want to play but are too young to know how to play video games, a couple things you can do. One is you can make them a griefer. I'll explain that in a little bit. Or you can also give them an AI companion, or something. But anyway, 3, what do we have here? Everybody, again, is an AI, because we see all smiley faces are all in different teams. Again, the 6th player it's white, so that's a griefer. And then we have Elim 1, which is Elimination Mode 1. Now, what's the difference between the elimination modes? In the elimination modes, whichever team does the worst when time is up, think musical chairs, that team is eliminated. In Elimination Mode 1, all the players on that team are out of the game. You're just removed from the game. In Elimination 2, all the players on that team are reassigned to be griefers. So say, if blue is out, then everybody on the blue team becomes a griefer. Anyhow, I'm going to load, I don't know. Let's start with Elimination 1 here. We'll start with the 3rd file I have created. So everybody's going to be on a different team. Okay. So, here we are at the main, what used to be the main menu. And again, it looks intimidating. Bear with me. once you get over this learning curve, there's a lot of replay value ahead, I promise. So we'll look at the top is 0 for the game's settings. We may as well start there. At the bottom, of course, when you're ready to play, you go all the way down to 9. Okay, so here are the game settings. Again, we have our Chiron down here telling us you can save these settings when you're done. I will help you along the way, I think it says. Yep. Thank you, onlooker. Okay, so first we have the game mode. And again, I told you it was Elimination 1. You saw that in the save file synopsis. There are 8 to choose from. So we'll leave it alone. Now you'll see that option 1 here is grayed out, so to speak, in red. If I try to select it, that menu item is unselectable, it tells us. Also, in lieu of the classic Intellivision RAS, refer to the troubleshooting portion of the instruction manual. Right, which I have that handy here on the screen. Okay. So yeah, in lieu of the original Intellivision RAS, the border just flashes to let you know you did something wrong. That's okay. Okay, now the reason it's grayed out is because in the elimination modes there is no game argument. The last team out is all we care about. 2, how many seconds are in each round? Think Utopia. The turn length argument. So we have it set to 60 seconds. Let's shorten that. Now, once again, you see the onlooker kind of tells us, okay, how many seconds in each round? I don't know. 30. 30 is good. You can see that we can go from, it can go as low as 20 seconds to as high as 100 seconds. Next we have density. Now, remember that in Snafu, some of the game modes had obstacles, and you could either choose whether or not to have obstacles. Well, in our case here, you can set how much obstacles. So this value here is a percentage, 0 to 99%. And so if you don't want obstacles, you can crank it all the way down to 0, you'll have no obstacles. The higher this number goes, the more obstacles you'll tend to have. Again, this is a percentage based on probability. So we'll leave it alone. 33% is good. Now, hyperspace charge. In this game, you can hyperspace. Same as like in, I don't know, Astro Smash, which you'll see is helpful if somebody's following you. Well, you have so many game cycles before you're allowed to hyperspace again. For AIs, I like to keep it a little bit lower. And this value is going to be, now in PAL, it's going to be 1/5 of a second. In NTSC, it's going to be 1/6 of a second. I think I'm in NTSC. So it's going to be about 1.5 seconds roughly. Oh, and say hi to our new kitty. We just got a new kitty. He's a, my wife nicknamed him Snowshoe as a sort of indigenous nickname. But yeah, he's a short hair mix. Very, very well behaved. He's an older cat, so he's not going to harass my other boy here, who's on my lap as always. Anyway. Okay. So, we're going to get out of the game settings menu here. Now, 1 through 8, this is all for customizing the 8 players. So let's have a look at one of them. We'll look at number 1. Okay, there's no need to go through all of them. Okay, so here's player 1. And again, we have the Chiron here from the onlooker kind of telling us what we can do. First of all, now again, this is going to be different in the prototype. In the prototype, players 1 through 4 can only be human players. Only players 5 through 8 can be AIs. The reason for that is because I didn't have enough. Without JLP, I had to work with the amount of Intellivision RAM, and there wasn't a lot. And I mean, I packed it really tight. I shared overhead between the menu system and the AI overhead. But I could only have 4 AIs, and I maxed out all the Intellivision RAM. All of it. I think it's safe for 1 byte. Okay, anyway. So here, active. Now, you would expect it to be yes or no, but instead we have 0 through 2. What does that mean? 0, well, let's just press enter here, and we'll start to get some help from the Chiron. Should this player be active? 0 is inactive, 1 is AI player, AI controlled, 2 is human controlled. So we'll just leave it alone. I'll just press clear to get out. So it backed up to 1 for AI controlled. As you'll see in the line below, it says AI player. And you'll see also, because up in the corner here, you'll see it's still the smiley face. Only now it's sort of got grid lines. I thought that looked cool. Next, we have the team. So right now we've got, and you see all the way to the right, it says Team 2. That's, you'll see there's a blue paint swatch behind the stenciled out number 2. So we're going to leave that alone. And you'll see in the synopsis up here for this player, the blue paint swatch behind a aqua-colored smiley face, which we're going to get to right now. Color. Now you'll see this is also set to 2. That's aqua, and that's the color of the smiley face. That's the color of your paintbrush. That's, for the most part, irrelevant. If you set 2 active players have the same color paintbrush, you'll get a warning, but it won't stop you from starting the game. Position. Now usually you're probably just going to leave this at 0. 0 means random. 1 through 8 means you can have an assigned fixed position. The only thing is if 2 active players are at the same non-random position, you won't be able to start the game. You'll be forced to fix that. Now the AI submenu, I'm going to leave this alone. I could get into this a little bit. You know what? I'll open it, but I'm not going to go into it too much. See, one of the things I want to do is I want it so, okay, feel free to experiment with all of this. Each AI can be configured differently. Yep. Consult the instruction manual. Yep. For more information. Yep. Okay. So here's one of the things I want to do. You can reprogram, if you will, each and every AI if you want to. And you can save that to flash RAM. Have fun. But that's it. I'm going to get out of here. I'm not going to bother to describe this. I know this menu system is intimidating enough as it is, but again, replay value. Have fun. Don't feel like you have to reprogram the AIs. I gave them all different-ish behavior right out of the starting gate. Okay, so we're done here with this player. So I'm going to hit 5 for return. We're back out here to the main menu. Again, player 6, again, you'll see it's got a white swatch behind it. Again, now you'll see here, okay, so for team, you'll see I have the flesh-colored text. That just is there to bring your attention to something. So in this case, it's because Team 0 is not really a team. That's all. Because it's a griefer. And again, 1 here is gray, so I want the gray outline because gray on gray. But yeah, so the paintbrush color happens to be gray. Okay, we're ready to play. Do you want to save? Well, no, because we really didn't do much of anything. I mean, we kind of sort of did, but otherwise there's no need to overwrite anything. 9 if you want to cancel and go back to the menus. 0 if you don't want to save and just start the game. Alright, here we go. I'd say let's play, except it's just all AIs here. But let's watch. Okay, so notice, so here's the game in action. So we set the round length at 30 seconds. There are 7 teams. And again, with white not really being a team. So there's player 6. Anyway, so our time's going to run out, and you see these numbers fluctuating here. That's how many of these, I call them square feet, are painted for each team. Now, when time runs out, these numbers are going to matter. Okay, blue didn't get any points. What happened? Blue's out. Blue did the worst as of the time ran out. And again, we're in elimination mode 1, so you don't see blue anymore. Blue's out. Every team that survived that round gets 100 points. So that's why I saw 100 everywhere. And again, between rounds, if that sounded familiar, I basically, it was a throwback to Utopia. 2 seconds to see how many points I got this round, as you're about to see. Okay, red's out. 100 points this round. Total points. And then ready, start. So you have 6 seconds delay between rounds instead of 4 from Utopia. Because I give you an additional 2 seconds to kind of like find out where your starting position is. You'll see obstacles all over the place, same as in Snafu. You got the onlooker down there in the corner, but he's not doing anything yet. The Chiron will reappear when the game's over. I just left him in because it was a throwback to the prototype ROM. Alright, we're about to the end of this round. Okay, grass green is out. And then there were 4. So yeah, this game's basically, when we get down to one team, the game's going to be over. So the game's going to be over in a minute and a half, roughly. Let's see. So, another thing I'll draw to your attention, if it looks like the game's only running at 6 frames per second, it's really not. One thing I'm going to describe, I told you that I needed JLP before I could release this game. There is... Okay, no, the other green team is out. Then there were 3. So yes, there is a lot of number crunching going on in the background right now, especially when you have all 8 AIs active. This game is utilizing about 100% of CPU time. Every single video frame worth of time is accounted for, and almost 100% of CPU cycles. JLP took just enough weight off my shoulders to make this game possible, with 8 AIs. Okay, black's out. Now it's flesh and yellow. It all comes down to this. Alright, so. Ooh. Oh, poor yellow. You got that griefer on your tail. That's bad. See, normally I would teleport out of there. So it looks like, yeah, this game is going to go to the flesh team. Oh. Okay, oh, no. Now he's starting to eat the, the tan-colored paint. Look at that. Okay, this might be anyone's game after all. Let's watch. No, I think Tan's still going to win it. Yep. Okay, that's game over. So here are the final scores, and here's our Chiron back again, and the onlookers talking. Game over. Thanks for playing. FUBAR was written by yours truly for Midnight Blue International, and is licensed to Intellivision Revolution. And that's all you're going to see there. I think there's an Easter egg message, but I forget how to activate it. Go ahead. Go to try to find it. Anyway, here are the final scores again. That's 100 points for every round each team survived. So blue didn't survive. Blue was out in the first round, so no points for blue. That's why there's that gap there. Down here where normally there would be a score for blue. Red was out in the second round, so red survived 1 round. Then grass green, then dark green, then black, then yellow, and finally our flesh-colored team won. Alright, so what was I saying about 6 frames per second? Well, each player is moved once every 10 video frames, because 8 out of the 10 video frames are accounted for each of the players, because you have an entire video frame's worth of time to move a single player in the event of an AI. Yeah. Then the last 2 video frames in each 10 frame cycle is for updating what's called the ranks, which is behind the scenes, updating the paint counters for all the teams, and also the music engine. So it's real easy to visually watch one of the paintbrushes moving about, which again only moves about either 5 or 6 times per second, depending if it's PAL or NTSC. So that's why it seems, and I didn't have any additional CPU time to sort of animate each of the players moving a single pixel at a time. So it does look like the game runs at a low frame rate. Anyhow, so let's hit reset here, soft reset. Now I could go through the instruction manual that you see in the background here, but I'll skip it. I just put it there to kind of look good here on my PIDE, Portable Intellivision Development Environment, which I talk about in another video, which is already live. Because all I have to do is just launch this game and poof, all the game physical assets sort of appear on the screen here. The overlay, the box, the instruction manual, and of course our emulation window. Let's see here, and the silver color of that overlay, I have so many rare silver overlays out there. See if you're going to be one of the lucky few to get one. Alright, so back to the game. Let's go over some of the different modes here. So I'm going to reload one of the other files. Okay. Elimination 2? We'll come back to that one. Yeah, we'll come back to that. Let's do the first one. So you'll see here we have only 4 distinct swatch colors. So that means we have the 8 AIs assigned to 4 different teams, 2 AIs on each team. And then I'll explain max paint 40 here. Okay. So here are the game. So here we have game. 0 is for the game mode, and it says max paint. That's number 1. So what does that mean? It means now the word paint. We'll start with max. Max means that your game argument has to do with how many rounds there are. And right now I have it set to 40. Let me change that real quick. Let's just go with 5 rounds. That's a good number. I don't want to be here super duper long. Usually I'll go with an obscene high number when I have this game just running at a trade show. Just let the game just run on demo all day. Oh yeah, that's another thing. I added that to the final release ROM. The game will come to a hard stop if any team gets to 1,000 points. There's a reason why I did that, but I'll probably explain that in a bit. Okay, so there's 5 rounds now, and that's what max means. You're going to play till 5 rounds are up, and the max score wins. Now, what is paint? Well, what paint means is the percentage of the canvas, which is each team's paint color, will be how many points they earn. So, at the end of a round, if 15% of the canvas is, say, painted blue, the blue team will get 15 points. That's how it works. Alright. Time, we have it set to 100 seconds. I don't want it long. I like keeping it short. Heck with it. Let's crank it down to 20 seconds now. The minimum. We'll just make this a faster game. I like 33% density, but what the hey, let's change it. Put it down to 25%. Hyperspace charge again. For all AIs, I like it to be a lower number. Let's just go ahead and start the game. Now, here's our synopsis again. You'll see blue paint swatch for players 1 and 2. Player 1 has an aqua-colored paintbrush. Player 2 is light blue. Players 3 and 4 both have the grass green colored paint swatch. They're on the same team. We have brown is the color player 3's paintbrush, and that's chartreuse for player 4. Kind of a very, very light green. Spring green, I used to call it as a kid. I was thinking of like the 64 color Crayola box. Black is the swatch for player 5 and 6. Player 5's paintbrush color is purple. Player 6 is gray. Then finally we have red here for 7 and 8 for player 7 and 8. Player 7's paintbrush is pink. I know that's kind of hard to see over red. Thanks, Intellivision. And orange for player 8. Alright, ready to play. No need to overwrite my save file. I can save to a new file if I want to. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are not in use yet. But I'm going to say do not save. Here we go. 5 rounds. Now, again, this is what's currently saved to flash, which is why it still says 40, but we changed it to 5. Alright, here we go. You'll see here, it looks like 5 minutes. That's 5 rounds. After the colon is how many seconds are in the round. So it could be above 60, and it could say like 99 if you set it to 100. So we're going to have higher paint counts because we only have 4 active teams instead of 7 this time. Here's our percentages. So 21% was black, 21% was red, 19% was blue, 19% was green. Next. And again, this is going to keep going the way it had until the 5 rounds are up. Okay, so black and green are tied for the lead at 41 points. One thing I'll point out too, in the event we have a tie when the game is otherwise supposed to end, I do have overtime implemented. And we'll see if that happens. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. It's described in the manual. Green is taking a lead here. So black has fallen behind to be tied for second place with blue at 59 points, and red is trailing 57. Oh, wow. Green didn't do so well there. Black made a comeback. Well, this is it. This is the final round. Let's see who wins. Let's see if we wind up going into overtime. And... okay. So, no overtime. Black just beat out red by a single point. Alright. And green was tied for the lead at one point, but then had a pretty crummy fourth round. So there you go. Alright. So I'm going to soft reset. We'll look again. We'll look at that other save file I have created. And again, now in my PIDE, it does appear to be dropping frames. I usually keep the emulation window smaller, but I turned the resolution up to the native resolution on my tablet here, which is what I'm running it on. And so the emulation window is actually running at, I think, 1024 by 768. The reason it drops frames is not because the CPU can't handle it, because it certainly can. The reason it appears to drop frames is because, again, in my PIDE, the X server only gets so much throughput for screen updates. I don't know if I can change that, if I can give it more throughput, because, yeah, I'd love to make the emulation window bigger and let you see full 60 frames. Now, for original games that utilize the executive ROM and are therefore capped at either 15 or 20 frames, anyhow, that's not a problem. And if I'm going over your head, don't sweat it. Again, I'm talking to... you can be as proficient technically as, or as little, it doesn't matter. As much or as little as you understand, that's fine. Don't sweat it if you don't understand any of what I'm saying. I'm just talking to the highest common denominator right now. I'm sorry, I should have put that disclaimer at the beginning. Again, I'm the developer of this game, so of course I'm very, very technically minded. I know the Intellivision, pretty intimately, and Intellivision is my specialty. This is the one console I developed for. So I'm going to say a lot of things you may or may not understand. Probably not. Alright. So, let's look at the other one. Elimination 2. Now notice, again, the first 4 players, these look like donuts. That means they're set to be human player controlled. I'll go ahead, I'll reassign, the last 2 players are not assigned at all. Those are X's. Alright, so let's load this file. Now here's what the synopsis looks like in this case. You see the stenciled out player number for the active players. And again, for players 7 and 8, which are inactive, but you see what kind of sort of look like devil horns above and below. Why did I go with those shapes? Well, again, I wanted half the paintbrush to have to just be a box with the player number stenciled out, so you know who's who. And in the case of AIs, here it doesn't really matter because the AIs know who they are. And then above and below, it's sort of like a half an X when you're waiting for your hyperspace to recharge after you've used it. And then when it's fully charged, you just see a round paintbrush. That's how that works. And the reason I put donut holes in the save file synopsis is so you can see more of the color swatch. I'm sorry, did I wake you up? Anyway, so let's go ahead. I'm going to make players 2, 3, and 4 be AIs. So we'll show you how this works. You press 2 and then enter, 0 and then enter, 1 and then enter. Now it's an AI. That also makes the AI submenu selectable. It's no longer red, but we're not here to do that. And we're going to leave everything else the same. So we're just going to get out of here. 5, enter. And yeah, kind of like Utopia, you're pressing enter a lot. So now for player 3. 3, enter. 0, enter. 1, enter. 5, enter. I know, it's cumbersome. 4, enter. 0, enter. 1, enter. 5, enter. Okay. So now players 2 through 6 are all reassigned as AIs. Players 7 and 8 are still not in the game. I could enable them. I guess. You know what? Why not? Why not? So 7 enter, 0 enter, 1 enter, 5 enter. You see that because now this player's active, all these other menu items are now selectable. They're not red anymore. Same for player 8. 8 enter, 0 enter, 1 enter, 5 enter. There we go. Okay, so now it's just me against everybody else. And again, this is going to be another elimination game, so it's going to fall under Elim 2. I'm not going to save it. The difference is when somebody gets out, instead of being out of the game, you become a griefer. All right, time to play. For real this time. All right, so there I am in the northeast. Oops, I got stuck there on an obstacle. So I'm player 1. I'm up in the northwest right now. I'm painting. Oh, I got player 3 coming after me, and I don't like that. I'm going to teleport. Oh, didn't put me too far away, but now my general strategy is to move diagonally when I'm over sections of the canvas that are painted, and orthogonally when I'm painting over somebody else. Oh, you see, everybody else has kind of the same idea. The AIs ain't stupid. What did I do? Set this to 100 seconds? Okay, so these are going to be longer rounds, but hey, I'm playing now, so that's cool. You want to see me actually play, don't you? Oops. I stopped for a sec because I didn't know if I wanted to teleport. Oh, there's that griefer, number 6 up there in the northeast. Again, the griefer has nothing else to do but unpaint everybody else's paint. And boy, do they do a good job of it. I'm still in the game. Yellow's out. But now, what color was yellow? Well, we don't know, but I know there's going to be 2 griefers out there. Where's the other one? I see player 6 griefing around. 1, 2, 3. That's weird. We should have 2 griefers right now. This is elimination mode 2, isn't it? Huh. What in the world? Did I inadvertently change the game mode to Elimination 1? I better see what's going on here. There should be 2 griefers right now, and I'm only seeing the 1. That's got me a little worried, actually. Oh, I'm out. Well, I should be a griefer. Let's see. No, no. Okay, no. Player 4 is a griefer. I see it now. You know what it was? You know what it was? I was looking for... Now it doesn't matter if I move around or not. I'm just a griefer. I was looking for the color gray because that's player 6's paintbrush color. Now here's player 4 over here. It's that chartreuse colored paintbrush. So yeah. No, there's not a bug. Okay. That had me worried. No, yeah, indeed. We are... Yeah. So we're ending up with more and more griefers as teams get eliminated. I guess I was too busy looking for that second griefer that I wasn't paying attention, so yeah, I wasn't playing to win for sure. So I'm just going to grief away until there's only 1 team left. And again, when I'm moving over somebody else's paint... Well, actually, you know what? Wait. Now that I'm a griefer, it's actually advantageous to move diagonally to unpaint. Oh, red's out. Because... See, it's advantageous to move orthogonally when you're still in the game and you're overwriting somebody else's paint color. And there's a reason for that. And again, the AIs know that very well. The AIs also know it's advantageous to move diagonally when you're not overwriting somebody else's paint, you're just trying to cover more paint. Or if you're overwriting somebody in your griefer, it's more advantageous because you're covering more ground. So now there's really no reason for me not to move diagonally the whole time. Again, this game is 8-directional, which means if you have one of the newer homebrew controllers that are being released, This game is perfect for it. Plug it into your ECS, you've got your third and fourth player, which means if you have the original Intellivision 1 console, you have your built-in controllers, and then you can have, because actually I did that. I have a long play controller. I have one long play controller. Okay, the flesh-colored team is out. So I have one long play controller right now, which is plugged into my ECS. I'd like to get another one, but I'd like to see if I can also get another controller instead, just so I have a little variety. So yeah, if there's one out there that's only 8 directional instead of 16, for FUBAR that's just fine. And you only in play there's only one button, and that's for hyperspace. Oh, we got some jostling going on there. See, the AI players will jostle each other when they're touching. So one thing I did was I set the AI behavior to usually teleport when they're touching. Speaking of teleport, I was over like a part of the canvas that was unpainted. Would have done me some good to just teleport instead of just like taking a moment to move over. We're down to 2 now. Grass green is out. So it's black and dark green. You'll notice that too. Usually the griefer AIs will teleport right away because they want to get right into the action of unpainting somebody. But again, we've got, there are 6 griefers right now. There are only 2 players that are not griefing. Who would have thought there'd be a game where griefing was an actual role in the game? Again, I'm every bit as much a game designer as a game developer, and I take a lot of credit for having come up with this game, even if I did conceive this like 20 years ago. This really is my flagship game, and will continue to be, even though I'm writing more games. I should have teleported, but whatever. I don't care who wins, because it doesn't matter to me. I'm just a griefer. But again, we talked about, I'll get into that in just a moment, because as soon as this game's over, I'm going to go back to the menu system and talk a little bit more about the... Okay, looks like dark green is our winner. So there we go. Alright. So I do want to talk a little bit more about some of the game design ideas. So, again, this game is very, very family friendly because people of all different skill levels and age groups can play. Again, if you got a toddler that doesn't know how to play video games but wants to play with mom, dad, and older brother, older sister, they can. They can. Again, one thing I can say, you can make a little baby brother just be a griefer, and he can just sit there the whole time holding the controller and just, upside down, of course, it's a rite of passage. Little kids, when they're learning how to play video games for the first time, always have to hold the controller upside down. So holding the controller upside down while staring at the screen like, everybody else is doing. I don't know what's going on, but this is what I'm supposed to do, is hold this controller and stare at the screen. That's cool. And again, give them an AI companion. So let's go back to the menus here. Alright, so let's go to the synopsis. So I'm going to go right to define the players. Alright, so here's our default settings. Again, because ECS was auto-detected, we have 4 human players by default instead of only 2. But yeah, FUBAR will auto-detect if you have the ECS computer adapter and keyboard expansion module. Now, obviously this game doesn't use the keyboard. I am working, by the way, on learning how to read the keyboard. I'm working on a game that does just that. So there's a little drop for you, but it's still under wraps. But yeah, you don't use the keyboard in this game. You'll use a pair of extra controllers, like in Intellivision 2 or Long Play or whatever else is being worked on right now. So again, I have a Long Play connected to the Player 3 slot, if you will, in the ECS, and it works just fine. I tested it on original hardware. I just want to get one more Long Play or any other homebrew controller before the con next month, because that would be awesome. If not, I'll probably just use my Sears Super Video Arcade, and I'll just use an Intellivision 2 controller just to kind of flesh it out. Something like that. Anyway, so here we see everybody's on the. We got players 1 through 4 are all human controlled players. Players 5 and 6 are AI. Again, with player 6 being a griefer, there is no player 7 and 8 at the moment. So what can we do? Well, okay, so there's, say, all right, let's just say it's myself, my mom, my dad, and, you know, a nephew. You know, I do have a nephew that's too young to play games yet. And again, you know, so let's just say I'm visiting my parents, and, you know, I coaxed mom and dad into playing, and now I got, you know, a baby nephew that wants to play. But he's too young to know how to play. What can we do? Well, we can just go ahead and keep them, say, player, you know, I'll let mom and dad be players 1 and 2, I'll be player 3, and we got the baby nephew be player 4, let's just say. What we can do, let's take player 5 and change him over to yellow, which would be team 7. There we go. You'll see right away the color swatch became yellow. We'll leave everything else the same. And just like that, my baby nephew has an AI companion. So yeah, at first blush, the teams look lopsided, but if he's just going to sit there and hold the controller and not actually move around, that'll work out just fine. So now the yellow team will just have an AI. So now there's an AI kind of going around, and, you know, again, the little baby's just going to sit there. You know, little, you know, baby nephew. Still got our griefer. If we want to get rid of that griefer, again, 6 enter, 0 enter. 0 enter makes him inactive. Everything else gets grayed out or redded out, if you will. And that's it. So there is no player 6. You see the number 6, and there's, I don't know, double horns or something above and below the 6. So he's out. So that's it. We just have these players. Now, because in reality, it's just me on player, you know, I have the bindings for player 2. I can be player 2 if I want. So we'll reassign player 1. We'll just make player 1 an AI right now, because my mom and dad aren't actually here with me at my house. Player 3 will make an AI. Again, 2 means human player. We have player 4, which we'll keep player 4 a human player, because again, in the event I had a little baby nephew here with me, they wouldn't be doing anything anyhow. Do we want to save this? Nah. But let me just backtrack. What game mode are we in anyhow? Max Paint? Oh, right. These are default settings. I was going to say, I didn't actually change that and save to Flash to 5 seconds. No, that's because by default, because again, I went with default settings here, the game mode is Max Paint. Let's change that. You know what? Let's go with... We'll go with the second one. This is max rounds. Now, what is max rounds? Whichever team does the best gets 100 points. Everybody else did 0 points. A little bit like the elimination rounds. How many rounds do we want? You know what? Let's just go with 2. Nah, we'll go with 3. 3's good. Let's shorten the timer. 30 seconds is a good time. Density's fine. Hyperspace charges... It's okay. The default's a 30. That means it's going to be either 5 or 6 seconds, depending on if PAL or NTSC. Again, if you don't know what that means, don't sweat it. If there's anything I say you don't understand, don't sweat it. Or throw a comment in the chat. Hey, you know, I'd be happy to explain stuff. But don't feel you have to be technically minded to enjoy this game. You don't. And if you are, please, make me a better AI. I'd love to see it. Alright, but let's just start playing. And again, I'm going to be on player 2 controls. I'm not going to save anything. Although I could, because this is default whatever. I could save, but I'm not going to bother. Alright, so I'm on player 2 control. So I'm red. Ah! What the... Why couldn't I move diagonally just now? That was weird. Alright, it seems to be working fine now. Oh! I should move orthogonally. I'm painting over somebody. You saw how it was leaving kind of like 2 white stripes and just a single red stripe. That's why I say it's not advantageous to move diagonally when you're overwriting somebody else's paint. orthogonally is better. Yellow was the winner, so yellow gets 100 points. Again, we're playing to best of 3 rounds. You'll notice player 4 is just sitting there because, again, that's my fictitious kid nephew here who doesn't know what's going on, and it's just holding the controller and thinking he's playing along, which is just fine. Again, family friendly. Yellow won again, so yeah, best of 3 rounds. This game's in the bag for yellow, and it's not because, you know, again, so yeah, look at that. My fictitious baby nephew just won the game already before it's over. Good job. And if you're watching, nephew, well, yeah, you owe me. No, not really. I promise I'll make some more 3D printed toys the next time we get together. Yellow wins again. Look at that. That must be one powerful AI. Well, okay. So again, it would have been, it was set to 3 rounds, and yellow won all 3 of those rounds. Why not? Alright, let's reset. Let's go over some of the other game modes. No need for me to really talk about much of anything else besides game modes at this point. It's almost been an hour. We're at 50 minutes here, I see. Game settings. Again, because I'm going to menu option 2 here, we're getting the default everything. Oh, I'm already in game settings, so that's right. Okay, so what are... by force of habit, I went to option 0 to get to the settings menu, but I'm already there. But yeah, I'm going to be... This is what I was going to do anyhow, is change it. Now, let's look at number 3. What is 3? We get max ranks. Again, we have number of rounds is set to 8. I'm actually gonna... Max ranks, huh? We'll set it to 3 rounds again. That's good. Just like last time. Now, what are ranks? Now, ranks, I mentioned that in passing up until now. This is how ranks work. A rank is defined as the number of active teams that have less paint on the canvas at any given moment than you do, than your team does, because it goes by teams. So what does that mean? Let's get out, let me see, do I want to change anything else? Yeah, let's shorten the time again. Let's keep it at 30 seconds, I like that. Okay, now look here at our synopsis. We have right now 4 human players and 2 AI players representing 5 actual teams. Again, white doesn't count. White is griefers only, and these 2 players are not active. So we have 5 teams, and that goes by the paint swatch color that you can see behind the stencils. So blue, red, flesh, I call it, yellow, and black. Those are the 5 active teams out of the 7 possible. We don't have representation for the 2 green teams because those players are not active. Alright. So ranks. What do ranks mean? Well, let's just say that everybody has a different amount, and again, you see the numbers fluctuate at the bottom of the screen during play. So, every 10 video frames, I told you, is a single game cycle. So 5 or 6 times per second. The ranks get updated, and the paint counters get updated. So, one thing that's happening is the game engine, in real time, keeps the ranks updated. So, let's just say everybody's up, and there's no tie at the moment. The worst team has, by that definition I gave you, 0 other active teams with less paint on the canvas at that moment. So that team, so whichever team is doing the worst, that team's rank will be 0 internally. Whatever, I was trying to make a 0 with my hands here. Anyway, so fine, 0. The second worst team will have a rank of 1 because there's one team doing worse. And again, the 2 green teams don't count because they don't have any representation. And then the third team will have a rank of 2 because 2 teams are doing worse at that moment. And then again, we have 5 active teams here. So the second best team will have a rank of 3 because there are 3 other active teams that are doing worse. And the team that's doing best at this moment, because 5 active teams, that means 4 of the other teams are doing worse. So that the best team at that moment, the highest paint count, will have a rank of 4. So, how does max ranks work? At the end of the round, your team earns 20 points times the number of your rank. So, in our case, because we're going to be playing with 5 active teams, the best team is going to get 80 points, 20 times 8, 20 times 4, excuse me. The second team is going to get 60 points, that's 20 times 3. The third team is going to get 40 points, that's 20 times 2. And the fourth team is going to get 20 points, that's 20 times 1. And the worst team is going to get 0 points because it's 20 times 0. Alright, here we go. And yes, I'll play. And I'll be red again. So I'm going to reassign blue to be an AI. And again, you can change the colors around. 3, 0, 0, 0. 3, enter, 0, enter. 1, and whoops. Okay, so we did 3, enter, 0, enter, 1, enter. There we go. 4, enter, 0, enter, 1, enter, 5, enter. There we go. All right. So we have, oh, okay, we'll leave the griefer in, why not? Okay. So it's just myself against 4 teams with AI representation and a griefer. All right, so here we go. Let's play. Oops. Player 2 controls. So let me get my fingers over the right controls here. I'm not going to save. Okay. What? Okay. What in the world? I had to... Anyway, didn't want to move diagonally southwest for a moment there. I don't know what was up with that. Chalk out to my keyboard here. Again, I am playing my PIDE, which means I only have keyboard controls, no physical controller. If anybody would kindly make an Ultimate Flashback controller that works in Android, and I can use it on my PIDE, you know, just change my keyboard, hack file. Anyway, so my rank ended up being 2. I got 20 points. So, I had a rank of 1. I think yellow did worse than me, and everybody else did better. But yeah, if somebody would kindly make an Ultimate Flashback that I could use in my PIDE, I would be so grateful. I would love to be able to show off my PIDE with playing with physical controllers. But as it is, yeah, I can only use keyboard. Oh well, you know, you can't have everything. Okay, I got 40 points that time, which meant my rank was 2. And again, we're playing, it's a max game, which means at the end of 3 rounds, and we're on the 3rd and final round here, highest points wins. Unless we happen to go in overtime. Let's see. Will we go in overtime? Good gracious. Okay, yeah, I know what it is. If I was on player 1 controls, I'd just have the arrow keys and we'd be fine. But no. Who wins? Not me. I got no points that time. Ouch! I did the worst. Overtime! Overtime! Okay, what just happened? We had a tie for the win. The game otherwise would have ended, but we had a tie. Flesh and blue, and then the griefers are still in. When this round ends, you're going to see an interesting little anomaly with the scores. It's how overtime works. But yeah, here we are, overtime. It looks like Flesh is going to win. Yep. And that's game over. Okay, what the heck happened to our scores here? Well, when overtime happens like it just did, The teams that were tied for the win play an elimination round. So basically, game mode just changed to elimination 1. The griefers stay in the game. Yeah. Everybody else is eliminated. Now, everybody else, remember, I had 60 points when the game should have ended at the end of that third round. Everybody who's not in overtime, their scores are halved. So my score got cut in half from 60 down to 30. Yellow, I had noticed, had 80 points. And so yellow team's score got cut down from 80 to 40. And you see black must have had 140 points. I think it was 140. If I recall, I think flesh and blue had 160 and black had 140, I think. So black's score got cut in half down to 70. The two teams involved in the tie that went into overtime, their scores were fixed at 499 at the start of overtime. Why did I do that? Well, again, I'll explain it, and if you don't understand, don't sweat it. But it's set at 499. Remember, because I technically changed to an elimination mode, tan survived the elimination and blue didn't, so tan gained another 100 points, ending up with a final score of 599. Okay. So first of all, why did I make that design choice? Why 499? And why did everybody else's score get cut in half? Well, it has to do with, remember I said I implemented a full stop if anybody reaches 1,000 points. Now, why did I do that, first of all? Well, it's because when I rewrote the AI behavior from the ground up for the final release of the game for 2019, I made it with the understanding that nobody's score would ever reach 1,000 or above. So the AIs, because of the internal values that the AIs use, they go with the understanding that nobody's going to have a score higher than 1,000, or 1,000 or higher, rather. So that's why the game just full stops if anybody reaches 1,000 points. So, what's the worst case scenario in overtime? The worst case scenario is we could have 7 teams, again, everybody, free for all like we've had, and all 7 of them just happen to tie for the win, and the game otherwise would end. So now we've got, 6 of those 7 teams. So one team gets eliminated, and we have 6 teams going into overtime. Worst case scenario. So, let's just say, and again, absolute worst case scenario, let's say all 6 of those teams, got 1,000 points, and the one team that got eliminated happened to have 999 points. Again, the likelihood of that ever happening is pretty close to nil. That's like all those perfect bridge games that have happened in our lifetimes. Statistically, that should only happen, if an infinite number of monkeys play an infinite number of games of bridge every day, a perfect game will only happen about once every 10 years, I think it goes. But, I don't know. Don't take my word for it. I don't know how to play bridge. I don't care. I'm not a card game guy. So, that would probably never happen, but it can. And I prepare for the absolute, apocalyptic worst case scenario. So, the game is supposed to end 6 teams all tied for the win with 1,000 points, and one team had only 998 points or something. Or 999. It doesn't matter. It would round, down. So now every team is going to have 499 points, including the one team that didn't make it to overtime. Fine. So we're in elimination. That means we're going to have probably 6 rounds. Now let's just say only one team, one team gets eliminated each time anyhow, because that's how Elimination 1 works. So you're going to have 6 rounds of overtime. More, because in overtime, if there's a tie for the win, that round gets redone. That round didn't count. So, after the first overtime round, One team is out. We're down to 5 teams, which now have 599 points in their score. At the end of the next overtime round, we're down to 4 teams, which now have 699 points. Then 3 teams with 799 points. Then 2 teams with 899. Then 1 team with 999 points. So there you have it, I think. Now, yeah, if there happened to be another round of overtime or something like that, then, then the winning team would end up with 1,099 points, which would trigger a full stop because somebody won over 1,000. But the fact that I set it to 499 does 2 things. One, it guarantees that nobody in overtime will have a lower score than somebody who doesn't. Which I said the losing team had only 999 points, and it rounded down to 499. So at worst, somebody who made it to overtime has the same score, but not lower. 2, by setting it to 499 instead of 500, we could have 6 rounds of overtime without a full stop. Alright, so, again, are you confused? That's okay. That's okay. Don't worry. I'll put that disclaimer in the video comments. You're probably already reading it now. If you don't understand any of what I'm saying, don't worry about it. FUBAR was not made for people that are technically inclined. It's made for people of all ability levels. But anyway, let me go again because I still have more game modes to talk. I know it's been over an hour now. I already went over game modes 7 and 8, as you're about to see. I'm back in game settings. Game mode 7 is elimination 1. That is, the worst team is out, all the players are out of play. Elimination 2 is what you saw originally, where, again, worst team at the end of each round is out. The players on that team are reassigned as griefers. So now you've seen game modes 1, 2, 3, 7, and 8. What about 4, 5, 6? Well, let's go to... Let's go to game mode 5. Now, I'll show you what all 3 of them are. You remember that game mode 1 was max paint, now it's target paint. Game mode 2 was max rounds, now it's target rounds. And then game mode 3 was max ranks, now target ranks. So, the difference between max and target has to do with the game argument. Instead of playing for a fixed number of rounds, now you play to what target score triggers a win. So let's go back to game mode 5, target rounds. Remember that in max rounds, what happens is the winning team, whichever team does the best, at the end of each round gets 100 points, and everybody else gets 0. So what you're looking at here is you're playing until somebody wins 3 rounds, which would have happened when I had my fictitious nephew here playing, because the yellow team won all 3 rounds. But let's crank this down to 200 points. And again, if you want to be an idiot and put in some obscure number like 255, it'll let you. Just basically, if you win 2 rounds, you're only going to have 200 points, and you're going to go to winning a 3rd round, and then the game will end. But I want 200. That's the minimum here. That means the game ends when somebody has won 2 rounds. Now, what do we got? Ah, yes. We got our default settings. I feel like sitting this one out, so I'm going to make everybody an AI. 1 enter, 0 enter, 1 enter, 5 enter. I know this is cumbersome. 2 enter, 0 enter, 1 enter, 5 enter. 3 enter, 0 enter, 1 enter, 5 enter. 4 enter, 0 enter, 1 enter, 5 enter. Okay, we have 5 teams plus a griefer. That's good enough. Alright, because what I don't want... You know what? Let's tweak this a bit. Let's just have only 2 teams. So let's take out the blue and red teams. Okay, so 0 means inactive. We just eliminated player 1, and we've eliminated player 2. And a matter of fact, you know what? Let me just show you something real quick. So now we have 3 teams with representation. That's flesh, yellow, and black. Let's eliminate player 3. So this is black and yellow and the griefer. But let's also eliminate player 4 and see what happens. Notice that menu option 9 is now grayed out, and the Chiron is telling us why. You need at least one more team with representation. The ghost team, that's what I call it. White, I call it the ghost team. That's where all the griefer, that's the name of the team where all the griefers go, the ghost team. So right now, we have only 2 active players, and they're both AIs. One is on the black team, and the other is on the ghost team, player 6. So that doesn't count because that means black is the only team in play right now. So what can we do to fix this? Now, if I try to start the game again, if I press 9, whereas that menu item is unselectable. But let's go to 6, and instead of having a griefer, let's just reassign them to, I don't know. We could put them on the black team, except, well, why not? Because we still, only one team has representation. The black team. Again, you can't have a game with only one active team. So black isn't going to work. We got to make it some other color besides black or white. So, I don't know, yellow, I guess. I feel like green. I don't know. Because reasons. Okay, so dark green. Now we can select option menu 9 to start the game because black and dark green are both represented. So we have an actual game to play. I'm not going to bother to save, and again, it's going to be best of 2. Whoever wins 2 rounds. So it's only basically going to be best of 3, pretty much. We're not going to save. Here we go. Oops. And again, I didn't change any other settings, so the rounds are going to be 60 seconds long. So this is probably going to be a 3-minute game. Unless there's an event of a tie, in which case we would just redo the round. So anyway, I got a cat that's fast asleep on my arms. I'm going to stop and talk for a second. So the music. The music tracker is actually a holdover from when I wrote the 2004 prototype. And again, I did originally write the prototype in 2004, February 2004, no less. I think it was the week of Valentine's Day, if I recall. I took a week off from work. It was, back then she was my fiance. She had an apartment already, and I just locked myself in that spare bedroom, which was my lab, and I just gunned it for the whole entire week. Cranked out that code. And it looks like dark green is going to win this round. Yep. So dark green gets 100 points, black gets 0. Here we go. Now, so if this was a game of tennis, we would say that, dark green has the advantage. All right. So the music tracker. The music tracker is really, it's as primitive as possible. And I did that on purpose. Because back then, indie ROMs, I think, could only be 16K times 16-bit. So 256 kilobit. That's the size of Super Mario Brothers, the original. So I went with a very primitive tracker, which just is fetching the next couple of words of music data. I think 3 words of music data, and just literally poking hex, hex values. Again, if you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. And that's it. That's all the music tracker's doing, is very primitive. But now that we have IntiBasic, why didn't I just use IntiBasic's music tracker? Well, because remember, and black won this round, so, yep, here we go. Best of 3. All comes down to this. So why didn't I use the IntiBasic music tracker? Now this game, I used IntiBasic for the menu system just so I wasn't having to look at spaghetti code from, because again, in 2004, if you didn't know how to write an assembly, 1610 assembly, forget it. That's all you had. That was the only choice you had. That's why the Intellivision indie scene got off to a slow start. While you didn't see new indie games, you only saw a trickle until about 2014 when IntelliBasic was first released. So I used IntelliBasic to write the menu system, so I wasn't looking at spaghetti code. The game engine, part of it, is in IntelliBasic, but I told you that I'm utilizing almost 100% of the CPU. The time-critical portions of it, I imported my assembly modules from the prototype. Yep, and I think I only had to make very nominal changes to make it work. Dark green is the winner. Anyway, because I don't know enough about IntelliBasic to know how many extra CPU cycles are needed for its tracker, I noped out. I said, no, I'm just going to leave the primitive tracker I had from 15 years earlier, and I just use that. And that's it. And just like in Snafu, I only bothered with 2 tunes, and I made it so that they'll sound good enough if you don't have the ECS and you'll have 3 channels of music. I didn't bother with sound effects, because again, really the only sound effect would be, I don't know, hyperspace. But I was like, yeah, no. So no sound effects, just music. Unless you count the RAS in the menu system, but I don't. Alright. Is there a need to go over the other 2 game modes now that you know what they are? Not really. I think we're at a good end-off point here. But again, this was meant to be a deep dive. Again, the only thing I could have really talked about more was the AI reprogramming menus, but again, once you overcome the learning curve of the different menus, you'll probably figure it out. And again, I talk about that at length here in the instruction manual, so I don't see any need. But yeah, here's the, I think this might be a prototype manual we're looking at here. But yeah, I really like, I think Mark Thompson is a guy who did the manuals. He took my, because I wrote instructions that were, of course, very well detailed. And I sent it off to him, and he did a fantastic, so yeah, props to Mark Thompson. Let me see, is he in the credits up above here? Yeah. Because the thing about the art style of this man, okay, no, he's, oh, credits. Oh yeah, here we are. So artwork by Steve Jones. That's the FUBAR, FUBAR box art, which you can also see here on the manual cover. Okay, so box designed by, Mark Owenhar. Overlay by Phil Boland. Manual, yep, Mark Thompson, there it is. Manual by Mark Thompson. So Mark Thompson did this manual, and I'm really happy with the work he did. Because this is how the original ECS software manuals looked in 1983. Just like this. So again, between this and the fact that we have what looks like an ECS software title box. So this could be something you could have bought at Child World in 1983. And it's a really, really nice throwback, and I'm very happy about that. But yeah, I had to stop and admire the instruction manual. And even if you look here, these are the Intellivision 2 style controllers. And this was the same art style. Like, you had this border at the bottom of each page and at the top. But yeah, these are the Intellivision 2 controllers, and you had this sort of, it looks like sort of like a pencil sketch behind it. And this is the ECS computer adapter with the cartridge going into it. This is like the original Mattel style cartridge going into an ECS, going into an Intellivision 2. Again, you don't have to have an ECS to play this game unless you want. And here's the Player 3, Player 4 controller ports. That's the only reason you need it. Plus, you'd have fuller music. But other than that, you can play with or without the ECS computer adapter. That's about all I really wanted to talk about. But again, oops. This game is my baby. I don't want to say it was 15 years in the making, because it honestly wasn't. I just wrote the prototype and then forgot about it until JLP came along, and I wrote my this very same development environment that I wrote FUBAR in. And then I said, okay, now is a good time to finally release it. And the rest is pretty much history. So that's all. Thank you so much for stopping by, and feel free to leave a comment. If there's something I could explain better, feel free to let me know. But that's that. I'm gonna... Yeah, I'll leave that open. That looks good. Okay. Thank you. Good night. Stop button. Here we are.